Yeah, so amazing to meet you. You are a legend.
Oh,
I've already met 2 chefs who say, "Oh, I know her. Oh, I know her. She's a legend."
gosh.
Yeah, I know. So Chef Nick said I needed to meet you and see your farm, and we're going to get some delights for the meal tonight. And it's just a dinner party tonight, but I know the chef's going to be doing some stuff for the homeowners gala. She does fundraisers for a really good cause for children in hospitals. Yeah, really good. But yeah, so tell me a little bit about
And
about
Nick,
the
if
farm.
you had this farm for, I think we started it, but not as a farm, just as a home garden. It's one of those things that just slowly expanded.
Yes, it grew like a
And
garden.
It grew like a garden, and we started it in, let's see, my oldest son is 48 and he was 3, so 45 years ago.
Wow, as a home garden.
Just as a home garden.
And so
And I was one of the, and it was always organic because I just didn't want my young children to feel that they couldn't touch things and eat things in
Right.
there. And in fact, we were one of the very first in the state to actually be certified organic. And that certification started shortly after we started growing things. I mean, well, at that time I was living in Cambridge and coming out here weekends and summers.
Oh.
And so, and that was kind of the beginning of the food revolution and Julia Child. And so suddenly people were aware of fresh herbs.
Right, Alice Waters. all that.
Alice Waters, yes. And I was really interested in fresh herbs. I had we used to go to Europe a lot in the summers because there's a lot of family over there, and just herbs were just everywhere, and they were so good and so fresh to buy, and in all the food. And so I just started slowly doing it. And there was a wonderful French-Canadian woman in Dartmouth who raised goats. Her name was Noélie Houle. There actually have been books written about her.
Really?
And she gave me some herbs that she used to use to make better food for her goats. She liked her goats to be able to have herbs. And,
Right.
and
Everyone should eat well.
Everyone should eat well.
And clean and healthy.
And so I started growing those, and then just that time a lot of the rising, then young chefs wanted them, and you couldn't get good fresh herbs. And so I would bring them back when we went back to Cambridge every week, and
They must have loved you.
They loved it, and and some of those chefs are still my customers. Those restaurants still
Really?
exist, yes.
Wow, that's
And,
fabulous. Wow.
Which is really lovely to think of how that plays. And then pretty soon it caught on, and then you could get them anytime you wanted from any country in the world, and but they're never as good as when they're really fresh and local, and people get that.
Yeah. Now,
So
are you a cook also?
I am a cook also, not a professional, but
Yeah.
but
I kind of have to be for your home garden to really
oh yeah,
flourish the way
I mean,
it did.
I love
You must,
food.
you
That's
love
why I
food.
do it.
Yeah.
And there is a professional chef, Dee Dee Emmons, who actually stayed in our little rental cottage for a while her place in Boston was being renovated, and she, although she had already a long career being a chef, she said she'd never had the experience of eating right out of a garden, and she was so just delighted and thrilled that she said, I just have to write a book about this. And she did write a book. It's called Wild Flavors. You probably have a copy in the kitchen. And it's still, well, it's actually not, it's available. You can sometimes get it from Amazon used, and I have a bunch of copies if anyone's interested.
Yeah, sure. Of
And
course.
people say it's really good reading, and it's about a lot of the more unusual things that we grow that,
Like what?
and what you can do with it. Well, right here we have a row of cilantro, which has gone to flower. You perhaps have heard people say, oh no, my cilantro has gone to flower, it's all lost, I
Right.
won't have it again. But when it's in the process of going to flower, these little ferny leaves are still really flavorful, and then the flowers are really flavorful, and then after the flowers comes the part which actually our mutual friend Kevin would remember well. I think he might have even been a person who kind of told me about them. I can't remember for sure, but it's his kind of thing. And these little berries are called, I call them cilantro berries, and all you need is one little berry to get the impact. Pass them around. Also makes a beautiful flower which has yellow pollen, which you can buy as dried fennel pollen, or if you happen to have it growing at your place, you can use it fresh. And then the flowers will be visited by pollinating insects, and they too are just loaded, which Nick has used a lot of little berries, which we call fennel berries, which are soft and chewy and super sweet and licorice flavored. And in India and in Indian restaurants in this country, they're served as a often after dinner kind of thing.
Oh, like a palate cleanser.
Yeah, and they actually dip them in sugar, which you hardly need. They're so sweet. But anyway, so in other countries they are used, and we're trying to get more people. But that's a wonderful thing, and a lot of things in that umbellifera group of plants do that. They have a stage at which the seed is a little fruit first before
right, because this was a little bit more sweet than.
But isn't that powerful flavor?
Very. Yeah, it's very good.
I mean, I call it exponential cilantro.
Yeah.
But the flowers too are lovely, and they too. They're not as intense as those little berries, but they are.
Now, when my boys, right, that's pretty intense too, but not.
But the seeds are something else. They're really a bombshell.
The bombshell. Yeah, when my boys were little, we always had gardens, and I just loved the fact, and they loved the fact, that you could just eat right out of the yard. Yeah. And that seems so foreign for a while, but it's natural. Yeah, it's amazing, Mother Nature, and the way that you say that in all of its iterations, this is flavorful and delicious and useful.
Yes, and then the root too. In a lot of countries they use cilantro root, and which is almost unknown here.
Yeah,
I think there's a paste that you make out of cilantro root and garlic probably, and which is real common in some places.
And so you have a lot of pollinators here. I know your farm manager's name is Honeybee.
Yes,
which is a perfect name for a farm manager.
Yeah. She's these are these horrible pigeons, which I was just complaining about to Nick, that are eating all of our pea seeds before they germinate and scratching up. But we're hoping to have some pigeon pie one of these days. So yeah, we have a ton, because you'll notice there are a lot of flowers all over the place. Honeybee started out as our flower manager, and
there she is, right on cue.
Yes, there she is. And she knows a lot about flowers, and so we have tons of them, and we let our herbs go to flower, and yes, we have many pollinators, and a friend actually keeps his honeybee hives, a couple of honeybee hives here.
Oh, okay.
But then we have a lot of wild pollinators too, which are just delightful to watch in action.
So, so how many acres do you have here?
We have, actually our entire property is over 20 acres, but the cultivated area is 3. And it's all just this spring completed being put into conservation restriction in 2 pieces, the forest piece and the agricultural piece. And so those pieces will forever be that. It's pretty tied up. Done by the Buzzards Bay Coalition, which is an awesome conservation organization.
Yes, I've heard of them many times.
They're in your neighborhood, in your neighborhood actually.
Yes, I think when we were doing New England boating, we heard about them a lot.
And they have done so much to clean up water and preserve land. It's really...
Yeah, that's great. Now, did you apply for that?
No, I was actually sought out by them because there's so much other land in conservation in this immediate neighborhood. If you look at a map, it's a particular shade of green, and there's so much. And I was like a little link between what's conserved on that side and what's conserved on this side of this property. So I was like a little keystone that tied it together. And indeed, you can walk through paths in our woods, through paths in other conservation area, and you can pretty much walk for a long time on protected land around here.
Now, how about those kids that you had when you were when you first started your gardening? Are they into gardening now too? Is your whole family?
They like food, and but they don't really do gardening.
Yeah,
they are urban actually, and they are West Coast urban, living in smoky atmospheres right now.
Yeah,
but
right.
when they have the opportunity, they do have little little gardening.
Yeah.
And their kids, well, one of them, I have a couple of granddaughters, and they come here. They love it.
Oh,
so.
I bet. Yeah. Children have a natural curiosity for nature and
Yes.
an appreciation for it.
And digging your own carrots, there's
Yeah.
just nothing like
Yeah.
it when you're a little kid.
Yeah, when I lived on the West Coast for a while, I just felt like I could tell the difference in the soil. It just didn't feel like my home soil because I loved to dig my hands in the dirt, and I liked to have gardens out there, but something just didn't feel like it was home for me. And it was the soil, the smell.
Probably not
of the
enough
soil.
rocks.
Yeah, right.
In New England, you've got to have a lot of rocks.
Yeah, you do. I have one of those trays, those big wooden round. I don't know what they're always used for rocks, but it's like a barrel shaped, and it has a screen on it.
Oh, to sift.
To sift, yeah, they're
Yeah.
about this big, and you get some big rocks on that. Yeah, so your chard's doing well.
The chard is doing fantastically.
Wow.
Yes, it is so good, and it's just so delicious. I love it, and we just keep picking it, and it keeps growing back. It's
I love that.
Quite amazing.
Basil's like that too. It feels like the more you take, the more it
The more
gives.
you get. And this is another thing that I'm going to try to show you things that you might not be familiar with, that you can't just see in any old garden. Although in any Asian garden, you would probably see this. This is Shungiku,
Shungiku.
also called Garland Chrysanthemum. And it is a chrysanthemum with a very tender leaf. Now these are old. We eat them mostly when they're younger, the leaves that is. But and feel free to pick some and try some. And you can get the flavor. It's got an unusual flavor. I try to get the tenderest leaf you can find. But
And what would you use this for?
oh, they use it for everything, just as a seasoning, just the way we would use parsley or something. Yes.
Oh yeah. Oh,
And,
that's good.
and
Different.
then I'm sure there are special recipes that
How do you spell that? Do you know?
well, in English it would be Shungiku, Shungiku. But if you look up either that or Garland Chrysanthemum, and you can get the seeds. And the flowers, I think, are lovely, and they also are totally edible. I love this sort of bicolor
Yes,
look.
with the yellow striking right in the center. Plates, 'cause I
It's
think
really coming through now. It's great. It's nice.
Now, chrysanthemum leaves, I almost feel like I read once that they're good for deterring spiders and things. If you have a home and you don't want to use chemicals and pesticides, crush chrysanthemum leaves.
Really? I didn't know about that.
Deter spiders. I mean, there's just so many uses that we're still uncovering for all of these beautiful natural things. Yeah, that's good.
So this is great. And here's the Shungiku, a younger version. You can see these leaves are going to be much more tender. Yeah, Nick, if you want some better leaves of the Shungiku, better for eating, see, these are just beginning to flower. Because with most plants, once they start flowering, then the leaves are not so important anymore, and they kind of dry up to some extent because the plant's putting all its energy into the flowers.
Right.
And then here we have two things that are interesting. One is Purslane, which you probably have seen in your garden and thought, oh my God, it's a weed, it's in there again. These are not as choice as it.
I believe that
Something.
Kevin cooked with Purslane when I just cooked with him a couple nights ago
I wouldn't be surprised.
because he talked about it.
He knows those things. And it was said to be the favorite food of Mahatma Gandhi, and it also is written about by Thoreau in his journals. That
Fascinating.
because it's a really common weed, and although I think it is actually European in origin, but it is one of the very few plants that has omega-3 fatty acid.
Really?
Yes. And it's so, whether you like it or not, know that it's good for you. But I like it. And I learned,
Tastes a tiny bit oniony. Is it in that family?
nope, it's all by itself. And
Purslane.
it's in the same family as portulaca. I think it is a portulaca. But it is used in tzatziki.
Oh, okay.
I first learned about that from Isan Gurdal, Formaggio Kitchen in Cambridge. He published in the New York Times years ago a recipe for Purslane tzatziki, which is usually made just with cucumbers, but you can use both or just purslane.
Really?
And then it's a yogurt, olive oil, garlic, and whatever your herb of choice is, usually mint in those countries.
No, I love
And,
tzatziki. You must
and
be
then-
super healthy.
I am super happy.
I mean, you're nibbling.
I'm 79.
Are you really?
Yes.
Oh, wow, congratulations. It's a privilege to get old, right? To get
It
older.
is, yes.
But you nibbling on all these healthy foods,
Yeah, I
organic.
feel very lucky. Chicories have a bitterness. They include radicchio, endive,
I believe I had endive with him also.
and yeah, I love it. Anyway, help yourself to stuff like that you see. So this is a chicory that never makes a head like a radicchio. So, you know, you call it a loose leaf chicory. In the lettuce family, you have loose leaf lettuces and heading lettuces, and this is a loose leaf. But it's a very mild one. I call it a gateway chicory for people who think they don't like bitter. This is mildly bitter.
Right, right.
And I hardly sell any of it to people, as opposed to chefs, as just by itself. But if it's mixed in with a mix of other greens that they're more familiar with, they love it because it just kind of blends in. I mean, you guys use our Eva's Greens mix. That's their go-to salad. Wild mix, we used to call it in the chef world, and here people know it as Eva's Greens. So when we're doing home deliveries, we just call it that. But they love it, and all those flavors together. I mean, ours is so different than what you buy in a store in a 2-pound clamshell.
Right.
Because we have all these different things, and it varies with the season. That's why we call it the wild mix, so that we can put anything that we want.
Yeah.
Because in the summer, a lot of the things in the crucifer family, which are the most common ingredients, they just do terribly in the summer. They hate the hot weather.
Right.
They hate the dry, and they get flea beetles and all kinds of things. But anyway, this is mild but slightly bitter, a little bit like escarole, and it's just wonderful in anything. And again, it gets through the summer without all those terrible things that attack things in the crucifer family, like mustard and arugula.
Right.
But I just think it's great.
Yeah.
So there's some very beautiful. Here is more cilantro in its more familiar, younger stage, and dill, and this is just a mix of different colors of lettuce that do well in pretty much most temperature ranges. And this is a new kind of lettuce called Salanova, just new in the last maybe 15 years or so. And
Pretty color also.
it comes in, you can see there's some that's green, and there's some that's this beautiful burgundy red, and different. This is also it, and it comes in different forms.
Wow.
Well, actually, this looks like dwarf romaine. This is dwarf romaine, but it is just gorgeous color, and the seeds are very expensive, but it makes a little head that never gets big. But the unique thing about it is that all the leaves are baby leaves. Like when you buy a whole head of lettuce, the outer leaves are really big,
Right.
and then they get smaller. But these, even the outer leaves, they're all little. They never ever get big, and it's just a really fun one, and very, holds well in the field. It holds well in storage. And these little dwarf romaines are very, very popular. And here we come into the chicory world. These are radicchios.
And you know all of it. I don't see any signage.
Oh, and
so.
here, these are escarole. This is a wonderful escarole called Natacha, which is these are not fully developed yet, but it's a really dense head, which has a little, slightly yellowish green and little flecks of red. But these are, again, they're a little not yet ready. They're young, but they will eventually make a nice, firm head.
But the flowers you can
The
eat
flowers
too.
are wonderful, yeah.
And what would you put these in?
And the flowers?
Yeah.
Oh, just on everything. There's no anything that goes well with cilantro.
What wouldn't you put it
Delicate
on?
looking. What wouldn't you? Right. Something where you could look at them a long time because they're so lovely with that little purple tinge.
Now they call you the notorious Eva, but notorious.
Yes, one of my employees just made that up.
Isn't it notorious have a bad connotation,
It does.
doesn't it?
It does.
But you seem lovely, so.
So that's what they called it.